appears to be working on new ballistic missiles, according to media reports. The revelations come a month after Kim Jong-un signed an accord with U.S. President Trump to start the denuclearization process. Well, joining us in the studio is a correspondent, Alistair Sanford. Alistair, what exactly is being reported here?
Well, Tessa, these reports come from, quote, unnamed U.S. officials, but they're quite detailed. They're carried in the Washington Post and also on Reuters. New evidence from U.S. intelligence appears to show this, including satellite photos, appears to show that there's ongoing activity at North Korean nuclear and missile sites, and suggesting that work on advanced weapons is continuing. In particularly, they highlight one factory near Pyongyang, the Sanumdong plant. Now, this is where it's believed that the first intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of reaching the US have been developed. And the images from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency suggest that work on these weapons is continuing. There's been a certain amount of reaction, particularly on Twitter, from independent analysts suggesting that they find these reports credible. Remember, we've also had recent testimony from the US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, saying that the North Korean factories continue to produce fissile material. Elsewhere, it's thought that the North Koreans are certainly honouring the agreement with Trump by dismantling some equipment, but it's thought that that's largely symbolic. And while they're doing that, this evidence suggests they're perhaps still working on weapons elsewhere.
And of course, this is coming after, we saw North Korea returning the remains of Americans killed during the war, and Donald Trump being very positive about progress. And then this seems to be a blow.
Yes, it would certainly call into question his strategy. Yes, there has been some progress, but consider the triumphant return and the euphoria amongst Trump supporters after the summit in Singapore with Kim Jong-un. Donald Trump tweeted, "There's no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea." He said at the press conference with the North Korean leader that Kim Jong-un had reaffirmed his unwavering commitment to complete denuclearization. Yes, as you say, there has been progress. What's believed to be these remains of US soldiers have been flown home. There's also ongoing talks between the North and South military officials. But this does call into question what was achieved at that summit. In particular, what does this phrase complete denuclearization mean, and what are the actual concrete steps that are going to be put into place?
Citing anonymous officials familiar with the intelligence, the Washington Post reporting tonight that North Korea is still working on intercontinental ballistic missiles. The officials, who again spoke on condition of anonymity because they were discussing classified intel, reportedly said satellite photos taken in recent weeks support the contention that work continues on the missiles capable of reaching the United States. The White House tonight tells us it doesn't comment on intelligence. Before this latest report, I asked Secretary of State Mike Pompeo whether North Korea is backpedaling after that Singapore summit.
No one's been closer to that than I have. So everyone else is simply speculating about what's taken place today. I've been there. The North Koreans have consistently reaffirmed their commitment, the commitment that Chairman Kim made to President Trump. No one was under any illusion that this was going to happen in hours or days or even weeks.
So what's behind the anonymous reports that some claim appear to be aimed at undermining the Trump administration's efforts at peace? Joining me now, Fox News contributor and former advisor to President Bill Clinton, Doug Schoen, and senior columnist for townhall.com, author of the new book, Militant Normals, Gert Schlichter. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thank you, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so a little bit more from the Washington Post article. I want to talk about the sourcing. They say this: according to the officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe classified intelligence, later adding, according to intelligence gathered by U.S. agencies. Later on, one U.S. official who, like the others, spoke on the condition of anonymity in discussing sensitive intelligence. Doug, why are they doing that now?
Well, they're doing it now because they think that the policy of the Trump administration is fatally flawed. Look, it is clear from this report and other reports, and I should add this one was very detailed, that the North Koreans have no intention of shutting down their nuclear program, that they agreed to a path to denuclearization on their terms. We need to get tough. The time for talking is done. Tighten sanctions on them, on the Chinese banks who deal with them. Go to the UN and say to the Russians and Chinese, well, you've got to get tough and cut off their energy supplies that go beyond the 500,000 barrel limit. talking is not the answer. They called Mike Pompeo a gangster. We should react with tough policies.
Yeah, and Kurt, the secretary told me, listen, I'm the one who's actually been going there and seeing it, and I know the details of what's happening more than anyone else. We also know that Ambassador Haley to the UN issued a report just a couple of weeks ago that said China and Russia are continuing to enable North Korea by allowing all kinds of illegal shipments that violate the sanctions. I mean, how do you crack down on all three of those world powers to get this done? Can you?
Well, you certainly can, and you should. I agree with Doug. We've got to get tough. Donald Trump is operating on a dual track. He's doing what he did as a deal maker in New York, dealing with other lowlifes who you can't trust in his real estate business. He's talking them up positively, and he's got that hammer right behind him, ready to strike. This is a complex game. No one has any illusions about who the North Koreans are, least of all Donald Trump. He's dealt with dirtbags all his career, and he knows one when he sees one. I am a little upset about the release of this information, this classified information being put out there, apparently for a political gain. As someone who held a top secret clearance, that's a disgrace.